The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Welcome back to the Personal Safety Show, where we are talking with Brian Hoffner of Hoffners Knives, HOFFNERS.com. And Brian was just about to explain how he learned about knives and blades and metallurgy. Brian, take it away.
I do a lot of learn by doing. I've taught my defensive knife program for 30 plus years to police officers and citizens throughout the country, military as well. And I used to recommend certain knives, such as a Benchmade 880 Millennium and the 910 Striker, two of my favorite Benchmade models. But Benchmade started putting assists on like all their knives about 15 years ago. And when there's an assist on a blade, which means you start moving the thumb stud with your thumb, and about a third of the way to the open position, the spring kind of catches it and throws it open. I didn't quite understand what the assist was for. Why do you need it? I mean, if you practice, you're going to get the blade open. But more importantly, the assist keeps the blade closed so you can't snap it, or it's very difficult to snap. So I said, man, this is a problem, because there's this assist fad going into the knife production companies, and none of these knives no longer work for the Hoffner snap. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to figure it out, and I'm going to start making my own line of knives, because I was carving divots into the handles and stuff of these other knives anyways. I need a knife that will snap, and I need a knife that has index divots, and I need a knife that is ergonomically shaped and has the jimping appropriate to use a rear grip hold. So I said, I'm going to do it myself. And I did. Yeah, I did have to learn about all the steels and the grip materials and stuff. And you have four factors, basically, with knife steel. You've got edge retention, toughness, corrosion resistance, and ease of sharpening. Those are like the four main factors of knife steel. And probably one of the most, I mean, they're all important, but you've got a knife that you're going to be carrying every day in your sweaty pocket and using out in the field, and maybe leaving outside, whatever the case may be. Corrosion resistance is key. Makers of custom knives that charge $600, $800, thousands of dollars for one knife, they're going to use a high carbon steel because it's sexy. But with carbon, the more carbon you have in a steel, the less corrosion resistance you have, because you have a lower amount of chromium. So there has to be, in my knives, I had to find a steel with a balance where it would hold an edge. Edge retention is important. More important than ease of sharpening, because we're going to put a really sharp edge on that knife. We're going to put a sharp edge on that knife, so you may never have to sharpen it if you so desire. So edge retention, and then toughness, you don't want the blade to chip or break. The harder a steel is, the less tough it is, because it doesn't flex. Instead, it chips or breaks. I wanted a steel that was, number one, corrosion resistant. Number two, held a sharp edge. And number three was tough. And number four had an ease of sharpening, because you're just not going to have to sharpen it very often. So I chose 440 chromium, which is the first and still the best super steel, because it has 15 to 18% chromium in it, a high level of chromium, which makes it true stainless steel. And at the same time, we're able to harden it to anneal it to 56, 58 on HRC, which is a Rockwell measurement. We've got a great steel for a great knife. For the handles, it was no question. I had to use G10. Right. G10 is expensive. VZ Grips gets, $80 a pair of pistol grips for their G10 grips. Well, I put the same grips on a knife and charge $79. It's really hard. It's dense. It's tough to break, but it's grippy. It's a grippy material, and it doesn't absorb hand oils or stains very much, if at all. It's really the perfect knife grip. That's what we use. I build a high quality knife that's extremely efficient for not just opening boxes, but more importantly for defending your life, protecting your family, that is a reasonable price. And doesn't mean I don't use other steels. I also use D2 in some of my knives. D2 is a tool steel. It has less chromium in it, but still enough chromium, particularly if I make it in a black blade. And the black on the blade is an acid wash. But that acid wash helps protect the blade when it is a lower level of chromium. So I only do the D2 in black. But it also doesn't mean I won't be using other materials. I'm going to be using VG10, which is a Japanese steel, in my knives soon, as well as Crucible products. Crucible is an American steel, really gaining in popularity. Most likely I'll be using a 154 CM, which is also a well-balanced steel in the way of the 440C. These steels, I might be able to get a couple more points hardness out of them while not losing too much chromium. So hopefully I didn't bore your listeners too much with that. A high-quality knife that's not going to corrode in your pocket, that's going to hold an edge that you can count on. That's what I do.
Terrific. I do have a couple of feature questions for you. First of all, I can certainly tell you know exactly what you're talking about, because as far as holding the knife and just the tactics you're employing, yeah, that's real knife fighting. It's not the open a box, let's be cool and have an assist and open the box and show off for everyone. This is real stuff.
The Hoffner snap, it is kind of sexy.
Very good. What about Damascus steel? You know, I see this in catalogs. I've never owned a Damascus steel. Is that just decorative, or is there something behind it?
Both. And I've done a Damascus knife, and I will again. It's expensive. It's multiple layers of steel, and two steels that you're blending in layers. And it's beautiful because they're doing, there's a lot of machine Damascus where they're able to machine these sheets of Damascus steel to where when you grind them to your blade shape and edge, these wonderful patterns appear. They're a lot of fun. They're beautiful. And because of the layering, they're strong. They have tensile strength. They're hard to snap one when you bend the steel. Doesn't mean that the edge is going to be chip proof or anything because you're coming down to a fine edge there. But in the layers, it has a lot of tensile strength. So yeah, it's functional and it is indeed beautiful.
Awesome. What's your take on serrated versus non-serrated edges?
I do both because it comes down to personal preference. A lot of people like, in fact, at USCCA, which was primarily a citizen show, I sold mostly smooth edge folders because people maybe perceive it as less tactical. It's easier to sharpen. They don't have to worry about sharpening the serrations or anything. So it seems to be more popular. I went straight from USCCA in Milwaukee to a police narcotics conference in Colorado where they primarily bought the combo edge, which has the serrations, because the serrations are good if you have to saw through something,
right?
Whether it's something, hard plastic, wood, or even some really heavy rope or nylon. So it could be more of a rescue feature,
right?
In a blade.
Like seat belts, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's personal preference.
So where do you have the knives made?
We're a little different than everybody else. And that's important because I work very hard to keep the prices down to a reasonable level on my knives. And that's kind of a requirement because I provide so many knives to law enforcement. And law enforcement, they can't afford a expensive knife. If my knives started at $279 instead of $79, about 6 cops would have them.
Right.
And that's not my point. My point is to have my knife in the pockets of every law enforcement officer and every sheepdog citizen that I can get in their pockets because it's such a good tool and it's so effective in keeping them safe. And whether you're a citizen or a police officer, I tell police officers whenever I lecture to them, I said, when we pinned on our badges, we did not waive the right to life. We are still citizens of this great country, and we still have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Therefore, we have the right to defend those rights, just like everybody else. So you got to have the tools to do it. Because I worked so hard at keeping my prices low, I've had a lot of help along the way, learning steel and everything from, I have a curator basically, and that curator not only finds my supplies, finds my steels, but he also finds the machine shops to do it and everything. So we don't machine in-house, we farm it out, and he's responsible for that. So we have machining done here in the U.S., but we also machine offshore. Then what happens is we receive the blades, we receive all the parts and everything in Houston, and we keep an inventory there of all the parts, and then we build out the knives that we need when we need them, which really works well in my system of manufacturing because, for instance, my folder, we have 4 blade types. We have silver smooth edge, we have the black smooth edge, we have black smooth edge, we have the black combo edge. So we can keep those 4 blades ready to basically just assemble with the grip that we need for the particular order. And we have 7 grips, 7 different grips right now. I could easily do 17, and I've done more, but I try not to add too many SKUs to my product line, but I just love with the G10 grips what we can do with both the milling and the colors and the layering of the G10. So because of that, I do 2 styles. I do my flatline grips, which I have 3. They're solid in color, black, olive, and khaki. I think I'm going to add gray. I don't think I'm going to be able to resist gray any longer.
Okay.
And then in the chiseled G10 grip, my chiseled series, I have color combinations. And what that is we can layer the G10 with different colors, kind of like plywood. And then when we mill into those layers, we can bring the colors out. So they're very beautiful, and with the pattern that we mill, they're extremely grippy. Now we have 2 styles of grips, one that's grippy, one that's extremely grippy, and then 7 different color choices. So with 4 different blades, 7 different grips, I have 28 different knives that you can have in one model, which is pretty exciting.
That's
awesome. But it also, the system that we use keeps the price of manufacturing low enough to where I can provide the knives at a very attractive price for someone who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on an everyday carry. That's what I do.
Well, in examining the knives, and I want to get into some of the actual models, I was just so impressed. If it was a crappy company, you wouldn't be on the radio with me. I was just so impressed at the quality. And I was so drawn to the Beast knife that I want to ask you about that. One of the things that I do is I have a book. It's called The Quiet Prepper. It's being rewritten right now. But I have a ton of equipment. And one of the things that I'm aware of is that a regular sheath knife is not going to work well in an urban environment. So I was actually looking at buying one that's kind of a pry bar knife, and that's what the Beast is. Holy cow. How thick is that thing? Cow.
It's a 7/16. There's no other knife like it in the world. It is a pry bar with an edge. All my knives are lifetime warranty, and the knife is the warranty. We don't need a receipt or anything. If you have a Hoffner knife, we're going to stand behind it. We do. But the Beast is also has a pry bar warranty. I mean, I want you to pry with it. It's got that extremely thick spine, and it tapers down to a short, thick tanto point, and then the same with the edge. So that knife is indestructible. I mean, I don't want you to use the edge to break concrete. If you're going to break concrete, use the spine.
Right.
You know, I can break cinder blocks in half in 7 seconds with the back side of the Beast. And you don't believe me, see my YouTube channel and watch me. I built it because with the Houston Police Department, I was a active shooter instructor. And we do this one session of the class where we teach breaching with the shotgun, but also breaching with pry bars, pry tools. And there are these pry tools that you're not going to carry on your person because they're too big and heavy. So I said, you know what? Why can't I make a knife that is a pry tool? So I built the Beast. With that Beast, you can spread the jamb of the door, you can pry the door, pop the door, break and rake the glass, chop through the wall, and get in. If you can't get in, go home. If you can't get in, you can't get the kids out. So that Beast will get you in. It's an extreme rescue tool. Now, it's also a great outdoor survival tool. You can chop a branch and baton down a tree if you want. You can build a shelter. You can use the index divot and bow start a fire if you were so inclined. That's like the last way in life I want to start a fire, but you could. And you can entrench with it. You can dig with it. So it's just the Beast. I mean, there's just no other knife like it. It will smash, trash everything in its path, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks a lot. You just sent me back $200. Actually, I'm going to be placing an order in the next couple months. I'm going to try to get my wife. She's kind of doesn't really want to buy guns or knives or anything like that, but I'm going to try to get her to get it to me as a gift. I'm going to try. So I'm on the website, which for the listeners is Hoffners, HOFFNERS.com. And as I'm going through it, I want to ask you some questions on some of the products. The basic one, the 3.5-inch snap knife, as well as the 2.8-inch snap knife. What's the difference between, well, other than length, what's the difference between the two?
They're the same model, the snap folder. The 2.8 is basically the little sister. It's the exact same knife, just all the measurements are reduced slightly. And this is for people with smaller hands or with women a lot. They wear these jeans and stuff that have really short pockets.
Right.
And so they'll fit short pockets. And some people just want a smaller knife. You can wear that knife appendix and it doesn't gouge you when you sit or anything because it's shorter. We probably sell the 3.5, what I call the workhorse snap folder, at least 8 out of 10 snap folders are 3.5. It's just a really wonderful, well-balanced, nice-sized pocket knife with that 3.5-inch blade.
So what's the difference between that and the War Master?
I just, a few minutes ago, went on and on and on about keeping the price of my knives down. Mm-hmm. But the War Master, because there are people that want to spend more money on a knife and want to have a high-end knife, well, that's what the War Master is. So the War Master is, I don't really want to call it a collector knife because it is such a tough knife and it's very efficient and effective, and it's just thick and heavy. It's as thick and heavy as the snap folder is thin and light.
Can you talk about the Hoffner Operator Kit?
Not everybody can attend one of my classes, so I did a training DVD. It's 1 hour long, which is about as long as I can make it because it's just, again, it's very simple. Basically, my training system on a DVD, and I packaged that with a training knife that has a dull edge and no point, all red, so it's easy to identify that you have the training knife. And then I packaged that also with a live blade Hoffner snap folder, and they're both 3.5 inch. It's a nice package kit for someone that wants to learn the system, have a training knife to learn it, and also have the live blade to carry.
I really got to ask you about this knife. Didn't the Astros give up their World Series thing? Wasn't there like a scandal and you're making a knife for them? Thanks. I'm kidding. I'm teasing you. I'm only teasing you. I think it's kind of cool.
And that's really an example of also the laser engraving that we do on the blades and the handle art we do in the index divot of the handle. So we can really personalize these knives too. And they make really wonderful gifts and corporate presentations. And we do them for companies, organizations, and individuals. And it's really cool because all we need, like, for instance, for the index divot, a full color JPEG of an image that will nicely fit in a circle. and we print it and we mount it and we use basically a Lexan to cover it and protect it. And they're extremely beautiful, full color. And then the laser engraving, one color, but we can laser engrave just about anything. A one color logo, people's names, a message. We do everything from attitude quotes to Bible verses. It doesn't matter. Whatever somebody wants to put on a blade, we'll put it on there. So between the two of those, yeah, we can really personalize the knife and make it even more beautiful than it already is.
And on the website, it shows that the laser engraving on one side is $20, which is nothing. When you were on the Houston Police Department, were you allowed to carry sheath knives, non-folding knives?
It depends. And a lot of times it depends on the station, whatever, but typically not in patrol. But every patrol officer carries a pocket knife.
Right.
But not every police officer receives my training or knows how to use it defensively, as I just talked about, in defense of your pistol or with your pistol. That's why I like to teach at police conferences and get that training out there. Now, specialized units.
That's different.
Will carry fixed blades. They'll carry them on their kit, what they call their kit. And the kit is basically their body armor and the cover, which is typically Molly and stuff where they get Molly stuff on, and they'll pull the belt latch off the Hoffner fixed blade, and they'll either zip tie or a 550 cord their Hoffner knife onto their kit. So there are a lot of law enforcement that carry my fixed blades, whether it be the hand spear or the beast. When I first created a beast, I was a trainer at the police academy by that time, but still my lieutenant called me into the office one day and says, "Hoffner, what's that giant knife on your belt?" And I said, "Well, that's the beast, sir." "Well, it's very nice. You're scaring people."
Right. Right. I get it.
I don't know if you saw my website. So that was the influence for me to create the calf holster, the Hoffner calf holster, which allows you to carry your fixed blade, be it the hand spear or the beast, on your calf, underneath your pant leg if you wish, over your boot if you wish, whatever. But it's very comfortable, and it's hidden if you want it concealed.
That's a great solution. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it works well.
The training kit that you send out with the DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a DVD player.
I know. You know what, though? Thankfully, and a lot of people don't anymore, but their kids have PlayStations.
Ah, smart. All right, got it.
And if you got a PlayStation, you got a DVD player.
Okay. I didn't even think of that, and I was thinking, what about a thumb drive? But that just solved the problem, so at least for me. What final thoughts can you offer about self-defense, Hoffner knives, your experience that would really help the listener?
It really is our responsibility. And when I say our, I say it doesn't matter if you're a cop, if you're a citizen of this great country. It's our responsibility to protect ourselves, defend ourselves, and protect our families. The Hoffner knife, when you start snapping it and understand the ease of which it is to defend yourself with it, it kind of changes you. It puts a level of confidence, gives you a level of confidence that you know you can handle yourself in a lot of these self-defense situations. And it's your responsibility, American, to defend yourself, protect your family. And the knife, like firearms, the knife is a exceptional tool, particularly the Hoffner knife, to do that. And that's why I'm traveling to so many shows. That's why I'm promoting my knife, because I want Americans to be safe. I want Americans to be confident and have that certain swagger because of it. Hoffner knives are for those who develop with the knife and basically have a certain swagger in their step, who refuse to be tread upon and do not back down from challenge, but instead face challenge with vigor and gladness. It's for those who choose the uphill path, give life all they can muster, and celebrate who they are while rising above the ordinary. Who wants to swim in a sea of mediocrity? For those who are self-reliant and understand that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are for them alone to ensure. So the Hoffner knife is for those who achieve while daring greatly and would rather die on their feet than live on their knees, who appreciates that life itself is their opportunity to make the world and humanity just a little better in their stead. The Hoffner knife is for those who understand, who dig it, do it, get it done, and own it. That's the Hoffner knife.
Fantastic. There have been a ton of takeaways here. I'm speaking with Brian Hoffner of Hoffner Knives. The website is Hoffners, Hoffners.com. And in addition to the professional takeaways, my personal takeaway from this conversation is never stop being funny, even if you're the only one laughing. I love that. I love it. Brian, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to our listeners today, and we look forward to many orders, including mine, which will come through shortly.
I really appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with you, Marcus, and your listeners, and I just challenge everyone to be not just a great citizen, but be a sheepdog citizen of this great country. Enjoy the confidence and the safety that it grants you and live life to the fullest. So thank you, Marcus.
We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.